One quiet morning in the small farming town of Akirika, a young man named Chima woke up before sunrise. He was the only son of a poor farmer who owned a small piece of land at the edge of the village. Every day, Chima worked hard on that land, planting yams, cassava, and vegetables that his family would sell at the local market. His clothes were often covered in dirt, his hands were rough from labor, and his shoes had holes in them. But despite all this, Chima never complained. He understood that this was his life, and he accepted it with a humble heart. That morning, Chima was walking along the narrow road that led to the farm. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors. Birds sang quietly in the trees. The air was fresh and cool. Everything seemed peaceful. But as Chima walked, he suddenly heard a loud sound in the distance. It sounded like metal crashing against metal, followed by a woman's scream. Chima stopped immediately. His heart began to beat faster. He looked around, trying to figure out where the sound had come from. Then he heard it again. This time it was clearer. Someone was in trouble. Without thinking twice, Chima ran toward the sound. He followed the noise until he reached a sharp bend in the road where a small bridge crossed over a shallow river. When he got there, he froze. A black luxury car had crashed into the side of the bridge. Smoke was rising from the front of the vehicle. The front door was badly damaged and the windscreen was cracked. Inside the car, a young woman was struggling to open the door. Chima rushed forward immediately. He ran to the car and pulled hard on the door handle. It would not open. The woman inside looked terrified. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "Please help me," she cried. "The car is on fire." Chima looked at the front of the vehicle and saw small flames beginning to appear near the engine. His mind raced. He knew he did not have much time. He pulled harder on the door, but it still would not move. Then he noticed a large stone lying near the bridge. Without hesitation, Chima picked up the stone and smashed it against the car window. The glass shattered. Quickly, he reached inside and unlocked the door from the inside. The door finally opened. Chima grabbed the woman's hand and pulled her out of the car just as the flames grew larger. They both stumbled backward and fell onto the ground a few meters away from the vehicle. A few seconds later, the car burst into flames completely. Chima and the woman lay on the ground, breathing heavily. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the woman slowly sat up and looked at Chima. "You saved my life," she said quietly. Chima sat up as well and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Are you hurt?" he asked. The woman shook her head. "No, I think I am fine." She looked at the burning car, then back at Chima. "If you had not come, I would have died in there." Chima did not know what to say. He simply nodded. The woman studied his face carefully. She noticed his torn shirt, his rough hands, and the dirt on his trousers. "What is your name?" she asked. "Chima," he replied. "My name is Chima." The woman smiled softly. "Thank you, Chima. My name is Adana." Chima nodded again. Then he stood up and offered his hand to help her stand. Adana took his hand and rose to her feet. She looked around slowly, realizing how far they were from the main town. "Where are we?" she asked. "This is the road that leads to the farming villages," Chima explained. "The town is about 5 kilometers from here." Adana looked worried. "I need to get back to the city," she said. Chima thought for a moment. "There is a small shop not far from here. You can use their phone to call someone." Adana nodded. "Thank you." Chima led her down the road toward the shop. As they walked, Adana kept glancing at him. She could not stop thinking about how this simple farmer's son had risked his life to save hers. When they reached the shop, Adana made a phone call. Within an hour, 2 expensive cars arrived. Men in black suits stepped out. They rushed toward Adana immediately. "Are you hurt, Ma?" one of them asked with concern. Adana shook her head. "I am fine," she said. Then she pointed to Chima. "This man saved my life." The men turned and looked at Chima. For a moment, they seemed surprised. Then one of them stepped forward and shook Chima's hand firmly. "Thank you, sir," he said. Chima felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "It was nothing," he said quietly. Adana walked closer to him. "It was not nothing," she said. "You risked your life for me." Chima looked down, not knowing how to respond. Adana reached into her bag and pulled out a small card. "This is my contact," she said, handing it to him. "If you ever need anything, please call me." Chima took the card and looked at it. The name on the card read, Adana Obi, Managing Director, Obi Group of Companies. Chima's eyes widened slightly. He had heard of the Obi family before. They were one of the wealthiest families in the entire region, but he did not say anything. He simply nodded and put the card in his pocket. Adana smiled at him one last time before stepping into one of the cars. As the vehicles drove away, Chima stood there watching until they disappeared down the road. Then he turned and continued walking toward the farm. That evening, when Chima returned home, he told his father what had happened. His father, Papa Chima, listened carefully. Then he placed his hand on Chima's shoulder. "You did a good thing today, my son," he said. Chima nodded, but deep inside, he could not stop thinking about Adana. Over the next few weeks, Chima returned to his normal life. He worked on the farm every day, woke up early, and went to bed late. But sometimes, when he was alone, he would take out the small card Adana had given him and look at it. He wondered if she still remembered him. One afternoon, while Chima was working in the field, a black car suddenly appeared on the road leading to his father's farm. Chima stopped working and looked up. The car drove slowly until it stopped near the farm entrance. The door opened and Adana stepped out. Chima could not believe his eyes. He dropped the hoe he was holding and walked toward her. "Adana," he said in surprise. Adana smiled. "Hello, Chima, what are you doing here?" he asked. Adana looked around the farm before answering. "I came to see you," she said. Chima was confused. "Why?" Adana took a deep breath. "Because I wanted to thank you properly," she said. "And because I have been thinking about you." Chima did not know what to say. For a moment, he just stood there staring at her. Adana stepped closer. "You saved my life, Chima," she said gently. "That is not something I can forget." Chima looked down. "I only did what anyone would do." Adana shook her head. "No," she said. "Not everyone would risk their life for a stranger." Chima felt his heart beating faster. Then Adana said something that shocked him completely. "I want to know you better, Chima." Over the following months, Adana visited Chima many times. Sometimes she came alone. Sometimes she came with her driver. Each time, she and Chima would sit together and talk. They talked about life, about dreams, about struggles and hopes. Adana learned that Chima had always wanted to go to university, but his family could not afford it. Chima learned that Adana had grown up with wealth but had always felt lonely because people only cared about her money, not about her heart. Slowly, something beautiful began to grow between them. Adana found herself looking forward to seeing Chima, and Chima found himself thinking about her even when she was not around. But not everyone was happy about what was happening. In the town, people began to talk. They could not understand why a wealthy woman like Adana would visit a poor farmer's son. Some people laughed, others gossiped, and a few became jealous. One of those people was a man named Oki. Oki was a wealthy businessman in the town who had been trying to win Adana's attention for years, but Adana had never shown any interest in him. When Oki heard that Adana was visiting Chima regularly, he became angry. One evening, Oki went to Chima's house. He knocked on the door loudly. When Chima opened it, Oki stepped inside without being invited. "What do you want?" Chima asked calmly. Oki looked around the small house with disgust. "You think you are special because Adana visits you," he said. Chima did not respond. Oki stepped closer. "Let me tell you something," he said. "A woman like Adana will never marry someone like you. You are nothing but a poor farmer's son." Chima remained calm. "If you have nothing important to say, please leave," he said. Oki laughed bitterly. "You will see," he said. "When she gets tired of playing this game, she will leave you." Then he turned and walked out. Chima closed the door slowly. His father, who had been listening from the other room, came out. "Do not listen to him, my son," Papa Chima said. Chima nodded, but Oki's words stayed in his mind. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. One evening, Adana came to visit Chima again, but this time she looked different. She seemed nervous. Chima noticed immediately. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Adana took a deep breath. "Chima, there is something I need to tell you." Chima sat down beside her. "What is it?" Adana looked into his eyes. "I have been thinking a lot," she said, "about us, about what we have." Chima listened quietly, "and I realized something," she continued. "I do not care what people say. I do not care about the differences between us." Chima's heart began to beat faster. Adana reached out and took his hand. "I love you, Chima," she said softly. Chima felt his breath catch in his throat. He had hoped to hear those words, but now that they were real, he did not know how to respond. Adana smiled gently. "And I want to spend my life with you." Chima looked at her in shock. "What are you saying?" Adana took a deep breath. "I'm asking you to marry me, Chima." The room became completely silent. Chima could not believe what he was hearing. "You want to marry me?" he asked. "Yes," Adana said. "I know it is unusual for a woman to propose. I know people will talk, but I do not care." Chima stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked outside. His mind was racing. "Adana," he said quietly, "I am just a farmer's son. I have nothing to offer you." Adana stood up and walked toward him. "You have everything I need," she said. "You have a good heart, you are honest, you are kind, and you see me for who I am, not for what I have." Chima turned to face her. "But your family," he said. "What will they say?" Adana smiled. "My father already knows about you. I told him everything, and he wants to meet you." Chima felt nervous. "When?" "Tomorrow," Adana said. The next day, Chima put on his best clothes and traveled with Adana to the city. When they arrived at the Obi family mansion, Chima felt small. The house was enormous. Guards stood at the gate. Expensive cars filled the compound. Inside, Adana's father, Chief Obi, was waiting. He was a tall man with a commanding presence. But when he saw Chima, he smiled warmly. "So you are the young man who saved my daughter's life," Chief Obi said. "Yes, sir," Chima replied nervously. Chief Obi studied him carefully. Then he spoke. "My daughter tells me she wants to marry you." Chima swallowed. "Yes, sir." Chief Obi was silent for a moment. Then he smiled. "I have met many men in my life," he said. "Rich men, powerful men. but very few of them would risk their life for someone they did not know. Chima did not know what to say. "You have my blessing," Chief Obi said. Chima's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" Chief Obi nodded. "My daughter has chosen well." 3 months later, the wedding took place. The entire town was shocked. People could not believe that Adana Obi, the wealthy heiress, was marrying Chima, the poor farmer's son. On the wedding day, the church was filled with guests. Chima stood at the altar wearing a fine suit that Adana had bought for him. When Adana walked down the aisle in her beautiful white dress, Chima's eyes filled with tears. As they exchanged their vows, Chima whispered to her, "Thank you for choosing me." Adana smiled, "Thank you for being you." And in that moment, everyone in the town understood something important. True love does not see wealth or status. True love sees the heart.